Hello everyone, very good evening and welcome back to RBI Grade B. So from today onwards, we are going to start the discussion on definitions as well as regulations. So before starting with the regulations, it becomes very important to understand few terms. I do not know whether all of you are on same page or not. See, we will be discussing, please, any of you might be having any sort of doubt related to IFSCA program or the kind of current affairs we should be doing. Do one thing, post your questions below the video so that we can compile them together and I can answer them all, right? Because right now I am teaching, so I cannot answer that, because if I'll start on that, it will take another period of time. But it is being said, see, there is no particular time gap or which you for the time period for which you should be covering the current affairs, but at least 1 year period current affairs is the bare minimum. You should be having awareness about what has happened from the date of examination. You can count 1 year backwards, and that is the approximate time for which you should be reading current affairs about. So this is the bare minimum. If you can have knowledge apart from that, that is good. But this is bare minimum as per me. Now this is my personal advice to you. Now let's talk about the definitions. I was talking about it. So in any kind of regulations, whenever you will see any kind of regulations, be it by any authority, SEBI, IRDA or IFSCA, any kind of regulations, they first start with the definitions. Why these definitions? Because in order to start the regulations, we are going to use some typical terms. So first of all, we should be having the knowledge about these particular terms. I do not know whether you guys are from commerce background or non-commerce background. So I'll be explaining from the scratch, right? As per my understanding, whatever knowledge is required in order to understand the regulations related document very efficiently, all these things I'm going to explain you here. So please be with me. First of all, we'll start with few of the basics, not very much, but few of the basics, and then we'll be seeing some complex terms as well, right? Some of you might be aware about them, some of you might not be, but well, let's watch this. And before starting any lecture on regulations, this is the prerequisite, because if I'll directly start with the regulations and I'll not cover the definitions, it will be of no use. Some of you will not be able to understand that what we are talking about, right? So let's start. Even before starting with the definitions, can you guys just quickly tell me that what are your backgrounds? That means what you have done, whether you are from arts, commerce, science, or what is your background basically. The stream which you guys have. Very quickly, please give me the answers. Some of you I already know, like Nivedita. What about others? What about others? Others do not have any kind of stream. So I'm assuming that you do not have a commerce related background, right? So see it over. First of all, always in relation to the funds in any kind of organization, we have two sources, right? One source is your equity. Equity is also called as the owner's fund. Those people who invest in equity, they called as the owners, right? And then we have got debt. Debt is that means what? This is borrowed capital. What you borrow from others. So when I'm this particular chapter, when I'll be talking about equity and debt, please understand. Now, in equity, when I use the word equity, commonly, this is the word which I use for net worth as well. I take two kinds of shares over here. One is my equity shares, and then I have got my preference shares. In kind of debt, you are having so many options in order to borrow funds, like some of the securities are debentures, bonds, deposits, right? So this is the basic thing. This is the basic kind of funding. This is how your balance sheet is built up. Your liability side shows the equity as well as debt. Now this was the first thing. Next thing, we'll be talking about what does IPO and FPO means. Very briefly, because I'll not go into detail. See, so understand there are so many organization types that we have. If you want to start a business, you are having so many organization type. You can start it under sole proprietorship, you can start it under partnership, you can start it under HUF, that means Hindu Undivided Family, and finally you also have an option that is called as company. Company means this is the organization which is registered under Companies Act. Companies Act 2013. Fine. Then this particular company form of organization, it can be of two types. One is public company and the other is private company. See, I want to start from the very scratch so that some of you, even if you know the concept, you can clear your concepts over here, and for some of you, those who do not have a commerce background, it would be very easy for them to understand what I am going to teach. So under your company form of organization, you can have two types of companies, public company and private company. Although there are so many differences between these two kinds of organization, but basically I'll make the difference in this particular sense. So see, what are the minimum number of members in a public company? Minimum number of members means I am talking about owners. So there are minimum 7 members. That means there should be at least 7 owners in a public company, and maximum there is no limit. There can be as many owners as this public company wants. That means anyone can come, anyone can invest the money, and anyone can become the owner of this particular company. No bar on the ownership. Hence, we call it as a public company, and a company in which anyone can come and anyone can invest. Now, talking about the private company. So, in private company, minimum number of members are 2 and maximum number of members are 200. This is the maximum limit. You cannot go beyond this. So this is a very basic level of difference between a public company and private company. I wanted to explain more than that, but time will not allow and we have to cover so many things. Hence I am not doing that. So next thing, in the public company type, again you can have two type of companies. One is listed company and the other is unlisted company. Listed means what? You have to list yourself. Where you have to list yourself? On a exchange, stock exchange, right? In case of India, how majority of the most popular exchanges that we have, these are called as NSE and BSE. So that means a listed company which is listed on stock exchange. And Vice versa, unlisted company that is not listed on stock exchange. Now listen to me, where I have in my finance related class, I have already covered what does the criteria as well as the whole process of IPO we have already discussed, right? In this particular lecture, I just want to tell you on a crude basis that at least 3 years of performance. In these 3 years, you have to maintain a net worth, you have to maintain your net profit, and after you have maintained, you have shown the consistency of maintaining the net profit, after 3 years, you are allowed a listing. That means any company which wants to get listed on a stock exchange, first it has to show its sound financial credentials, right? So meanwhile, you will remain a unlisted company. That means you are a public company, you have formed yourself as a public company, but for the time being, you are not allowed because you are not listed on the stock exchange. Now, in the process of listing on stock exchange, this is called as, suppose an unlisted company. I hope that this thing is aware now, clear to everyone. So we have got company form of organization. There are two kinds of companies, public company and private company. I have given you the difference on account of membership. This is the most basic kind of difference. Then we have got listed company as well as unlisted company. Listed company means which is listed in stock exchange. Now this particular part is super important for me because I will be seeing that, okay, listed company will be the term which I will be using again and again. Now, talking about it, so this is the process. You are a unlisted public company. You want to raise money from the public. That means you want to take money from the public. Now what you will do? You want to get listed on the stock exchange. So that process is called as IPO. IPO means initial public offer. You are giving the securities to the public for the very first time, and hence it is called as IPO. For IPO, there are so many requirements of the stock exchange as well as SEBI that you need to fulfill, and after that you can issue your securities and then these securities, once the company issues it, these securities get listed on stock exchange. Right? So this is the process. Unlisted company goes for IPO, issues security to the investors. Investors will come and give the money, and after that, now investors have been issued the shares. The securities will get listed on the stock exchange. Yes. What is the purpose of stock exchange? So stock exchange provide the liquidity. What are stock exchange? If I talk in very simple terms, stock exchange is a marketplace where you can trade the securities. Suppose I have just purchased a new car. This is an example. I have just purchased a new car. Now please replace the car with the shares. I have purchased this particular car shares, and now after 2-3 months I'm thinking, no, I do not need it and I do not want it. So what I'll do, I will try to find a buyer, interested buyer who is ready to purchase my car. Now in case of cars, we have got car bazaars. These are the marketplaces where I can sell my used cars. Where to sell your used shares? There is no such concept of used shares. It's just that once you have taken the shares from the company, now you want to sell them. So stock exchange provides you the marketplace where you can sell the shares. I hope you understand. That means what? That means stock exchange provides you the liquidity. If that is understood by you, now another thing which I am going to tell you, this particular setup, when an unlisted company issues share for the very first time to the public, this particular activity is called as primary market. This is called as primary market. When a company which has issued shares or any kind of security to the investors, these securities have been taken by whom? These securities have been taken by the investors. So when these investors, they purchase the security from the company directly, we call it as a primary market. No, it is not a secondary market. Now, if this is primary market, what does a secondary market means? So let's see it over here. I'll make this graph over here so that it is easier for you to understand. This is your company. This company has issued share for the very first time. Now, I have purchased these shares from the company directly. Right? Now, after 2 months, I am a trader and I do not want to hold these particular shares any longer. So what I'll do, I'll find a suitable buyer. So there is a person, I'll name him Investor X. I sold my shares to this particular investor X. So the transaction which I did with the company, it is called as the primary market transaction. This particular transaction will come under primary market. And this particular transaction which is happening between me and investor X, this will be called as the secondary market. I hope now this thing is clear to everyone. So primary market means when an issuer gives the securities to the investor. Right? Now, when investor gives the securities to someone else, that is called as secondary market. Now, this is the difference. You can find primary market as well as secondary market in both kinds of market. That means money market is also going to have these two kinds, and your secondary market is also going to have these two kinds. Now, with this particular information only, I'll tell you another concept that we call it as IPO and FPO. This is IPO and this is FPO. Right? So sometimes, many of the times when I ask my students that does FPO and IPO, they come under secondary market or primary market, many of the times the student gets confused. So I hope with the help of this example or this particular diagram, it is super clear to everyone that what does IPO and FPO means. Now I am going to write the definitions also beside this particular point so that it becomes easier for you to recall this particular concept, right? So IPO means what? IPO means what? When company issues securities for first time. Please focus on the word first time. When a company issues the securities for the very first time, it is called as the IPO. Now, that means what? Earlier, you were an unlisted company. Now, as soon as you got listed, you issued some securities. So, very first time, if you are doing something, that will be called as IPO. Now, after that, any kind of subsequent issue, of security by the company will be called as FPO. FPO means follow on public offer. IPO means initial public offer. And in both the cases, who is going to issue the securities? Your issuer, that means company. To whom? Investors. any transaction which happens between one investor and another investor, it is called as secondary market. Any transaction which happens between a organization, that means the company which is original issuer as well as an investor, it is called as the primary market. Now I hope that the combinations as well as everything is covered under this and you can understand this very easily. If it is clear, now we'll move on to the definitions. These were the basic things which I wanted to tell you. Now there are two more things, but we'll talk about them later on. First of all, the first page will be containing very basic things, so please do not create a fuss over it. These are super basic things. First of all, wherever in the regulations, wherever I'll be saying the word act, the word act means what act? Your IFSCA Act 2019. Now what does business combination means? Business combination means merger or amalgamation or acquisition of shares or assets of one or more companies having the business operations. So can you tell me any kind of example of business or combinations that you might have seen in the recent times? Can you tell me any example? Anyone else? There are so many, guys. Please at least try. No one is trying. Give the answers at least. There are so many. The Instagram that we use on daily basis, WhatsApp, the example which has been given by Parth. There are so many. So leave it. We have chosen to stay mum for all the lectures. So it's okay. Now I'll tell you. There are two kinds of business combinations. Basically, I am telling you a accounting related concept and very basic things I am going to tell you. There are two types of business combination. One is merger and other one are called as the amalgamation. Now the amalgamation will not be the right word. I'll use it over purchase. Also can be called as the acquisition. And if it is forced one, that means the other entity to whom you are taking over, it's not ready to give you the control, then that is called as the takeover. So these are the different kinds of things. Now see very carefully what is the difference under this. So business combination in accounting language we call it as amalgamation. Now see over here what I want to tell you. So these are in the two natures. One is merger. Merger and purchase. What is the difference? Just very basic thing. When there is an entity, suppose there is a company B. Now this company B is completely taken over by company A. Fine. All the assets and liability, everything is being taken over. When everything is being taken over, that is called as the merger. And what we call it as purchase. So in case of purchase, selective assets are taken over. Selective assets and selective liabilities. When you are taking in toto, that will called as merger, when you are taking an organization completely, and when you are taking just few selections, then that is called as the purchase, acquisition. You can call it as takeover as well, if this particular kind of transaction is the forced one. So this is the meaning of your business combination, right? I have explained this particular thing for once and all, because we are going to do regulations, and in these regulations you must be knowing all these concepts very clearly. So it becomes easier when you know something deeply. Now next thing is your convertible debt instruments. Convertible debt instruments means what? Suppose here, first of all, this means which acknowledges, first of all, indebtedness is acknowledged. You have given some kind of debt to a company or any organization. Now that organization should repay you on time. But if that organization says that, okay, you have given me this particular debt, right now I am not in the position to give you your amount back. I am telling you one of the scenarios. So in that case, organization says that, will you please take up equity shares instead of the debt which you have given? So that means what? They have converted your debt into another kind of security. That is what we call it as convertible debt instruments. See, convertible debt instruments means an instrument which creates or acknowledges indebtedness and is convertible into equity shares of issuer at a later date without the option of holder of instrument, whether constituting a charge on the assets of the issuer or not. So basically that's what I was telling you. If any kind of debt instruments you have given and that debt instrument has been converted into any other kind of security, most probably in an equity shares, that is called as the convertible debt instrument. Followed up with convertible securities. Yeah, you are correct. There are so many kind of transactions that happen, right? Companies decide their terms. First of all, what we can say is, we can just generalize in terms of mergers and purchase, etc. But at the end of the day, the type of agreement between two companies, they differ. That means they have their unique kind of agreement. So examples you are saying, these are correct and that can be brought in under your business combinations. But understand that in case of your if you are talking about Vodafone Idea, they have maintained their separate identities as well. So hence it has also been an example of business combination, but a different kind. Now talking about convertible securities that we have already talked about, debt securities means not convertible debt. So wherever the debt security will be a convertible one, it will always be written as convertible debt securities. Otherwise we'll be talking about your debt securities. Next is designated stock exchange. Designated stock exchange, see, NSE and BSE, they have already opened their IFSC related units. But what does a designated stock exchange means? So it means a recognized stock exchange chosen by the issuer. Who I am calling as issuer? The company or the organization which want to issue the securities. That particular organization I am calling as the issuer, on which securities of an issuer are listed or proposed to be listed for the purpose of particular issue of securities under these regulations. So if you are choosing that your securities should be listed on NSE IFSC or BSE IFSC, that depends. The whatever stock exchange you are choosing, that will be called as the designated stock exchange. Now for those who do not understand that what is the purpose of stock exchange, I have already told you, this is a marketplace. Right, marketplace for the securities in order to purchase them. Now next thing that we should be talking about is depository receipt. Do you guys understand that what is the meaning of a depository receipt? In any of the classes you might have seen it. Depository receipt. So the basic question I am asking, whether I should be explaining this in detail or you guys already know about it. Please tell me quickly. Depository receipt, everyone. Please tell me. Nivedita, you should have to know about it, right? You cannot say that I don't know. You do not have that option. No, that is not the case. What does depository receipt means? Let's talk about it. So, see, let's take the example of ICICI Bank. It has already done this. So I have taken this organization, ICICI. Fine. Now ICICI, it wants to take, see, it has access to Indian stock market. That means ICICI can raise funds from the Indian stock market. But on a lighter note, ICICI is a greedy organization. Let's assume it. Or we can also say that it is a growth organization and it wants the funding or the funds from American market as well. American market as well, it wants the fund. Now what it will do? So first of all, it will find a local American bank. Right? It will find a local American bank and ICICI will give its ICICI will issue its securities. Let's assume ICICI will give the shares. To whom? To this particular local American bank. Now this particular local American bank, it has got the shares of ICICI. Now what it will do? It will issue depository receipts where? In American market. That means America's capital market. Right? So now please see the process very carefully. ICICI, it wanted the funding from outside. That means it wanted to capture American stock market as well. So what it did, it identified a local American bank who was ready to be a custodian. This particular bank took the securities of ICICI. He should be having something, right? Now after taking that, it issued depository receipts in American market. Now American investors who are interested in giving the funds to ICICI, they will subscribe to this particular depository receipt, right? That means funds will go to local American bank and from here the funds will flow to the ICICI. So the depository receipt is a indirect mechanism to get the funding from the overseas markets, overseas capital markets. Right now we have got ADR, American Depository Receipt, GDR, not in America but other countries you have got GDR, Global Depository Receipt, and in our IFSC also we want to come up with this particular concept, right? So this is the concept of depository receipt. Please do not worry, we are going to see that how does issuing, listing and everything happens in the stock exchange, as well as what will happen in the IFSC, what are the whole regulations regarding depository receipt. We are going to see it all. Right now, just understand that what is the mechanism of depository receipt. Now, if it is clear, we'll be talking about foreign jurisdictions. Foreign jurisdictions, what all are the foreign jurisdictions for us? So obviously, other than India, whose security market regulator is a signatory to International Organization of Securities Commission. Now let me tell you what is this International Organization of Securities Commission. So there are approximately 130 nations whose capital market regulators are participant of this particular organization. What does this organization name is? Please read this again. International Organization of Securities Commission. Like our SEBI. SEBI is also a member over here. Like that, 130 jurisdictions all over the world, they are the members of this particular organization. What does this organization do? So like what our SEBI does in the national interest, it regulates the capital market, it brings out the rules and regulations in order to protect the investor interest, right? So that are the similar kinds of thing which this particular organization does, but on an international level. So the aim of this particular organization is to give the support to international, all the capital markets, fund flow that should be flowing between two markets, as well as investor protection and investor grievances redressal is the aim of this particular organization. So for us, the whosoever is the foreign jurisdiction means the entity should be registered in either in India. Any entity, that means any company which wants to operate in IFSC should be either registered in India or any foreign jurisdiction. I repeat my words again. Any entity, any company, any corporation who wants to do business in our IFSC, it should be either registered in India or it should be registered in foreign jurisdiction. Now, which foreign jurisdiction we are talking about? So first of all, that foreign jurisdiction should be that foreign jurisdiction's market regulator, security market regulator should be a signatory to this particular organization's memorandum of undertaking. If it is not a member of this particular organization, then we have got another way as well. What is that another way? Just wait. If you are not member to this particular International Securities Commission, then the other option is that country's security market regulator should be a signatory to bilateral memorandum of understanding with our IFSC authority. This is the second option. And along with this, either you should be the signatory of International Organization of Securities Commission, or you should be signatory to bilateral memorandum of understanding with our IFSC authority. Plus, in addition, this country should not be identified in Public Statement of Financial Action Task Force as a jurisdiction which is having strategic anti-money laundering and combating the finance of terrorism deficiencies. Next, a jurisdiction that has not made sufficient progress in the addressing the deficiencies or has not committed to the action plan. Now, in a simpler term, we call it them as greylist and blacklist. So there are countries which are on the grey list as well as the blacklist of your Financial Action Task Force. Financial Action Task Force is the global organization which was established by the G7 countries, and there are the twin objectives of this particular organization. Number one, anti-money laundering, as well as to stop counter-terrorism financing. These are the two twin objectives of this particular organization. Now grey list, a very good example of this is our dear neighbor Pakistan, right? So Pakistan has got deficiencies. FATF is again and again giving them a list that these are the parameters on which you have to perform, and Pakistan has been yes, they have achieved certain progress, but everyone knows that what does their progress means. Now next is blacklist. So countries like Iran as well as your North Korea, they are on the blacklist of FATF. So hence, if any particular organization that is coming in the IFSC, setting up an organization over here, they should belong to such a foreign jurisdiction which should be a signatory of your International Securities Commission. And apart from, if that is not the case, then they should be having a bilateral MOU with our IFSC authority, plus they should not be in the grey list or the blacklist of the Financial Action Task Force. So these are the requirements for any particular countries, any organization that is coming to our IFSC. Now talking about follow-on public offer, we have already read about it. So the follow-on public offer means this is the offer of securities by a listed issuer. Listed issuer means you have got already listed. If you have been unlisted and you issued the securities for the first time, then I would have called as IPO, initial public offer. But right now I am calling it as FPO. So we have got a query. The query is right in this particular lecture, whether we are talking about companies or countries, like you said that SEBI also signed foreign jurisdiction, तो ये SEBI को इनके rules follow करने होते हैं. So let me tell you. I'll explain it over here so it will be easier for you to understand. My eraser is a bit slower, so I have to find a safe place. So this is an organization, International Organization for Securities Commission. Who are the member of these particular organizations, right? So I am saying that security market regulators of various countries, they are the signatory. Signatory means they have signed, they have said that we will be following up the guidelines which you are giving. So in our country, who is the security market regulator? In our country, SEBI is the security market regulator. So I have said that we are also a signatory to this particular organization. Now the next part which I am saying is any company. Now suppose there is a company which wants to get into our IFSC, right? This company, this is a foreign company, and this foreign company, they want to come and set up a unit in our IFSC. That means the gift city we have established. I hope this is clear up to this particular point. I am telling that this is a foreign company which is coming, and this company wants to establish a unit in our gift city. So when this company will come to us, or when this company will come to IFSC authority, IFSC authority will check whether this company's security market regulator is a signatory of this organization or not. For example, if this particular company is a US company, so whether US security market regulator is a signatory of this organization or not. Why we are following that? That because of being a signatory to this particular organization, that means your capital market is following all the ethical practices. That means your country in which you are registered is following all the ethical security market related practices, and this is the requirement. Now I hope you have understood the entire topic. Have you? Tell me quickly, have you understood the topic or not? Now moving ahead to our next topic, that is called as green shoe option. Now by the name, this particular thing seems very interesting, but first let me break you the myth. Green shoe option. First of all, understand that this word green shoe, this has got no meaning. Green Shoe was a manufacturing company, Green Shoe manufacturing company, which used this particular option for the first time, and hence the name has been kept like Green Shoe option. Number one. Now, what does this option means? So, whenever any company issues share, see, so whenever any company has issued shares, right? Now you have issued these shares, but there is huge demand for your shares in the market. There is huge demand. Everyone wants to take up your shares. This happened with the Facebook IPO. When Facebook first came with its shares back in year 2012, at that particular time, this particular option was also used. I am telling you by the example of a very famous company because Facebook IPO was the most popular one. Now see over here, huge demand was there, but company has closed its IPO. Now, even if after IPO closing, there is a huge demand of your shares, so what company can do? Company says that to underwriters, this is the general thing which I am talking, that you can issue extra shares. What did I say? Let's talk about this again. So when this particular company, it came with its IPO, it has thought that we are going to issue just 1 lakh shares. They have thought that we will be issuing just 1 lakh shares. But there is a huge demand in the market. Everybody wants to take. So now they are extending their limit. Instead of giving 1 lakh shares, they have told their underwriters that you can issue 10,000 more. That means 1 lakh 10,000 shares. So this is called as green shoe option. That means if you have got huge demand of your shares in the market, then obviously you can extend it, but there is a limit up to which you can extend. And we'll be talking about this when we will be taking care, or we'll be talking about our regulations in detail. We are going to talk, but as of now, just understand that this is called as green shoe option. And do you understand the concepts of demand and supply? Anything which has got huge demand, it ought to have the highest prices as well. So this green shoe option is also considered as a price stabilization mechanism. Price stabilization mechanism means, see, earlier you were just giving 1 lakh shares. Now you have given 10,000 extra. That means you have increased the supply. You have increased the supply. Now after you have increased the supply, automatically prices will come down a little bit. Prices will not be that much high. So green shoe option, it is also called as it is also taken as a price stabilization mechanism, right? So this was the green shoe option. I guess I'll be taking class up to this particular topic only. There are many definitions left that we have to cover, and after covering all the definitions, we'll be starting with the regulations. So please stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching, for joining in. Please do not forget to like this video, and see you in the next class.